Greetings, I am Tartarus, and welcome to the third of the Archivist lessons. Today, it'll be a short one on the basics of the Ostora. I've chosen them because of their deceptive simplicity, and for the first time, I'll delve into some parts of my design documents to paint a better picture of this race. Let us first look over what I have said about the Ostorans before. They have always been a smaller force in Tavora, heavily nomadic, and bound to the northern wilds. This avian-like race has always been plagued by strife and struggled to survive, demonic incursion or not. But integration with humans has brought about a lot of changes. To make sense of it all, let's start at the beginning. Even as one of Tavora's intelligent humanoids, the Ostoran have always been met with significant challenges from their conception. Due to their location, they had ogres to deal with north of them. The Pirov didn't appreciate their presence and ran them out of the southwest. Even the Erebor, the more passive of the three, weren't as open to the Ostorans as they were to humans. Surrounded and without allies, their race was vulnerable. The land they did manage to survive in also provided little. The terrain didn't allow farmland to be established, and permanent residences were often destroyed very quickly. Ostora, as previously mentioned, have no affinity towards magic. A curse in a world where a single magic user can conjure a pillar of flame to swallow half an army. However, the feathered people of the wilds had some blessings to count. For one, they developed particularly efficient digestive systems. What may not have even provided others a lick of nutrition, the Ostoran can get a halfway decent meal out of. Bark, berries, and a scrap of meat can keep one of them going for days. On top of this, Ostoran instinct became one of the sharpest around. While some have always been more gifted with it than others, a well-endowed Ostoran could look down two forest paths and reliably predict the safer one to take. And due to both natural selection and their lifestyle, Ostorans were physically capable. So while they were outnumbered and outmatched, the race survived by tenacity and ingenuity. This lifestyle unfortunately had the side effect of crippling Ostoran cultural development, however. Much time was put into survival and just making it by, and without a permanent residence, they had very few written records. Most of their history and culture was kept orally, and when those that had knowledge died early, parts of the Ostorans went with them. The first major change, however, would occur when some humans fled the Pirov and the Tiquos raids to the east. These tribes would be forced into the same land as the Ostorans. Contact was short and awkward at first, especially with the language barrier. But the Ostorans have always been swift to learn, and rather than make a new enemy, the Ostora offered what they could. They taught the tribes how to hunt, scavenge, and survive this place. It was also here that the races would discover that they could have viable offspring. By a supermajority, the tribes shunned this. The Ostorans, however, only viewed it with skepticism. The real schism would happen when the Pirov came for the northern tribes. The humans stayed to fight, while the Ostorans retreated further with the very few who would go with them. The new hybrids proved quite adept at surviving, more so than their pure-blooded counterparts. While Ostorans that mixed lost their limited flight, they passed on their stomachs and instinct. As such, the hybrids became an accepted phenomenon as time passed, and perhaps laid down the foundation for the events following the human rebellion. When man returned, wielding steel and erecting stone walls, the Ostorans watched for a short time, but it was clear to them, especially once the Erebor pledged themselves to join this alliance. For the first time, Ostorans had a roof over their heads and a stable home. They blended with the humans, and when the devastation came, served at their side as scouts and aides. And no matter what happened, the Ostora would remain loyal throughout the decades of fighting. Which finally leads us to today, where the true Ostora is lost to history. They appear mostly human now, with Tavoran's fair skin, albeit a few things set them apart visually. They have a trend of being taller and slimmer, but what catches the eye would be their feathers. Brightly colored with almost any hue or tone, they sprout from an Ostoran's arms, legs, and/or scalp. Few in number now, but they are seen as a display of a proud heritage by the Ostora. The same goes for their eyes. Matching their feathers, Ostoran eyes can be a variety of exotic colors. But even though they have shed their forms, abandoned their homes, and had very little, the Ostora are a tightly knit, proud people. Some have clung to their identity and ancestors' legacy more than others. None more than the Tavora, a group dedicated to the veneration of the Ostora and their past. They held much pride in the fact they held one of the few surviving texts of their people. Desiring to be a sovereign force in the north, they eventually found themselves dwindling as many of their people found greater prosperity in working with the Lyra's faithful. Though they did not dissolve, and they were eventually forced to open themselves up to the idea of working with humans. With great respect for the Ostorans' endeavors, a healthy relationship formed between the two. The Tavora offered services just like any other Ostorans, but they contained the best of the best. They are currently led by Kel the Pale Hunter, an Ostoran with orange eyes and legendary feathers. With sharp, tropical blends of multiple colors ranging from blue to orange to green, he is an anomaly among his kind. Even in his older age, he is not slowed down. Peerless with a bow, but a master at arms, Kel has dazzled even night witches with his alacrity and dexterity. His true lethality comes from his skills and stealth, however. Able to stay stone still like the dead, Kel understands patience and inevitability. When he wishes his target dead, they shall be, with hardly a whisper. This is what has made the Ostorans famous. Exotic appearances, uncanny instincts, and being hard to kill. In a world of magic, their prowess is such that they have survived, and should never be underestimated. In the novel, you'll witness this through Anure, the Night Hunter. While not a juggernaut capable of ramming into the enemy's front lines, her lethality and wit make her a valuable friend, and a very dangerous enemy. And there I can bring us to a close. The Ostora were a fun one to write, and I do have a bit more work being done on them behind the scenes. The Tavora need a lot of expansion and revision before I talk too much about them. But I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction. Next time I may cover the Tiqua and the reptilian dominion to the south. But a large part of Tiquatsec is the mystery surrounding it, so I'll have to be careful about what I choose to present. Until then, I have been Tartarus. Thank you for your time.